Chapter 1. Above a pinkish-orange planetary horizon, 3 humans wear futuristic anti-gravity exosuits. As one free fall, she gets a glimpse of the planet's sky, as she sees her intergalactic transport ship burning and falling from the upper atmosphere. The dropship explodes, causing debris to be scattered across the skies, engulfing the free-falling exosuiter. The human helmet was impaled with a debris shard, killing him instantly. The other 2 kept free-falling to the planet below. They see an ocean and large landmass, consisting of a vast beach. Beyond the beach is a vast jungle. Finally, one of the personnel sees a giant alien-like infrastructure. The exosuit's AI informs the 2 humans that they had reached sufficient miles in the air to deploy their parachute. One person successfully deploys their parachute. However, the other exosuit parachute fails to open, causing him to tumble to the ocean below. After 5 minutes of descent to the planet, the personnel in the exosuit detached the parachute as she was close enough to land safely in the ocean. As she tries to swim to the beach, the current overpowers her control, especially when the exosuit does not allow much mobility to swim. The wave pushes her against the rock, knocking her unconscious. An hour later, the human regains consciousness, with her face buried in the sand. The human gets up and staggers to a small boulder to take a seat. The exosuit's AI alerts that her suit was ruptured. The human looked at the damaged area where oxygen was escaping. The human presses a few holographic buttons on the computer keypad on the forearm, activating the emergency repair. The suit repair foam seals the breaches in the suit. The human performed a diagnostic scan of her exosuit. Adding to the dire situation, the suit's carbon dioxide scrubbers were damaged. The scrubber would have allowed 24 hours of recycled air. Now there were only 2 hours. The human again punches a few more holographic buttons in her suit to test the amount of oxygen in the air. The holographic heads-up display, or HUD, for short, estimated 15 minutes to analyze the atmosphere. The human looks around and observes the surroundings. The human looks at the ocean's horizon and sees 3 planetary moons. Again the human presses a few buttons in her holographic forearm computer, activating the GPS proximity scan. The HUD indicates 2 GPS signals. One is very faint as it is out of unknown territories in the ocean. There was no way the human would venture out into the sea on the alien world. The only option is to trek to the other GPS signal, which was at least 3 miles up the beach. After a 30-minute hike, the human located the signal, leading her to one of her crewmates. Her crewmate was a woman, lying in a fetal position in the sand. The human examined the body, finding it was impaled by debris from the ship and was bleeding out. The human quickly makes their way to the body and activates the biosigns monitor on the suit. The suit reads a flat line, only confirming her crewmate's demise. Suddenly the exosuit's AI informs the human that the atmosphere is breathable with slightly elevated levels of carbon dioxide. It was a relief that it could take off the exosuit. It was almost out of oxygen. Not only that, but the environment was also able to sustain human life as the climate was 110 degrees. The human takes off their helmet, revealing that she is a female human in her mid-20s. She has cinnamon skin, rust-colored hair, green eyes, thick lips, and a lovely nose. Her name is Dr. Joilee Raina James. Joilee takes deep breaths and finds the air is dense but adaptable. Joilee removes the rest of her exosuit until she has nothing on but a catsuit. The catsuit was made of interwoven fiber technology to help the human body adapt to the changing climate. The catsuit showed that she was a curvy, buxom beauty. Joilee removes the microcomputer from the forearm of the exosuit called a Palmer. It is a compact supercomputer that is the size of a modern-day Android phone. It had a super high-speed data processor called the Solarium processor. The Palmer has a 3000 terabyte processor and 5000 terabytes data storage. The device was made of gold and titanium and was nearly indestructible. The casing protected it from physical abuse, electromagnetic pulses, and was waterproof. This computer could link the satellite to the subspace communications beacon in the planet's orbit. Joilee activated the GPS of her ship to locate her ship's crash site. She looks at her position on the holographic map. The ship had crashed in a dense tropical-like forest. She looked in the direction of where the ship crashed, and she could see plumes of smoke 50 miles away. Her ship was a 3-day walk from her position. She decided to head towards the GPS distress beacon. During her 3-day journey, Joilee experienced the planet's cruelty regarding the weather during her 3-day journey. The day and nights were short as they ran a 7-hour cycle. Although the hours of the day she experienced rapid climate fluxes, some hours of the day were sweltering. Temperatures reached 120 degrees during the daytime. However, it was at least 40 degrees at night with rainstorms that appeared without warning and were frequent. The dense forest provided excellent shelter against extreme high winds. However, she still had to find accommodation. After an exhausting 3-day trek, she finally made it to the crash site. Unfortunately, half the ship is intact, as the other half was the vessel's bridge that fell into the ocean. Much of the ship's remnants were still on fire. However, not as much as heavy rain settled the flames enough for safe entry. After climbing through the ship's vents, she finally ended up in the cargo bay. The part of the ship's supercomputer was still intact. Joilee gave a retina scan to open the doors. She grabbed a futuristic survival backpack and filled them with freeze-dried rations that were enough for a week. Next, she accessed the weapons locker and caught a futuristic 9mm called the Punisher. The weapon holds a clip with 50 bullets and has a fire rate of 3 burst trigger. She had equipped herself with a titanium dual sonic edge machete with a polycarbon handle. This was to help her cut through the dense jungle foliage. She also grabbed a slim analyzing data card attached to the back of the Palmer. It would allow her to analyze plant samples for edibility. Her next step was to access the workstation, where another of her crewmates lay lifeless. She moved the body, synced her Palmer to the ship's core computer. Finally, Joilee activated the ship's diagnostic and discovered that the ship's communication systems were still functional. "Thank God," Joilee replied. Joilee was still capable of sending a subspace message to the beacon satellite above the planet. However, the ship indicated going through a core meltdown within an hour of her arrival. The blast radius would be 7 miles. She accessed the ship's records about the planet. She downloaded the data, mainly the terrain map up to 1,000 miles of terrain from her position. Soon after, she began to record the message sent via satellite. She saw the magnetic interference was substantial. She boosted the communications signal to clear up the distortion. Palmer video log. Dr. Joilee Rayna James, July 1, 2459 CE. My name is Dr. Joilee Rayna James. Approximately 3 days and 53 minutes ago, the interstellar spaceship the Oldumare was destroyed above Sierra Alpha Prime. After being in orbit for only a few hours, some weapon was fired from the planet's surface, destroying the ship. The escape shuttles that accompanied 6 personnel, including myself, were knocked off course and crashed on the surface. I am the only survivor. The ship is not safe for me to stay here. The ship's engine core is going through a meltdown. Luckily, the captain of the ship was able to release multiple subspace beacon satellites before impact. I will investigate the energy source that the Oldumare scanned before it was destroyed. Maybe if I can disable whatever attacked us, it would be safe to mount a rescue mission. I'll keep a frequent record of what I see during my journey. Soon after, Joilee made her distress call and finished updating her Palmer. Joilee exited the broken ship through the cargo bay doors. Her Palmer indicated that her energy reading was 30 miles from her position. She decided to head in that direction with extreme haste. With only 20 minutes, she had to clear 3 miles to have a safe distance. With every breath she took, it was hard for her lungs to adjust. She did not fathom that the dense air would wreak hell on her lungs. She had to push. She was only a mile out from the ship. It was either push or be vaporized. The clock pushed to 10 minutes, and she was only 2 miles before she reached out of the blast zone. Joilee pushed herself until she collapsed. It was only 30 seconds until detonation. Joilee found a trench with a rock formation that would protect her from flying debris. She curled up in the fetal position waiting for the evaporating blast. Once the countdown ended, there was a flash of light followed by a large explosion. After the debris and dust settled, Joilee burrowed herself out of the dirt and destroyed foliage. Joilee went to investigate the damage. There were miles of forest cleared. The blast radius was more powerful than she imagined. It was a miracle that she survived. The environmental catsuit she wore was ripped in various places, and she had open cuts as well. Joilee activated her Palmer to look for the energy signature of the weapon. Once the Palmer's GPS recalibrated her position compared to the energy signature, Joilee was on her way. Signature, Joilee was on her way. Signature, Joilee was on her way.
Alright, good people. That is the end of the first chapter. Stay tuned for the next chapter to come. Take care.